Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. I have a couple of stories to share with you in this very latest Moon Lambo Hot Jam, including this one from you today. Ripple's top lawyer. SEC faces another loss. And oh yes, indeed it is true. The SEC just suffered yet another defeat. There's also this headline. Now, this one was from a few days ago, but I haven't had an opportunity to talk about it yet on my channel, and it's too fun not to cover, so I thought on a Sunday evening, this would be a perfect time to go over this. You may have heard the news by now, but check this out. We're going to get into some of the specifics here, but from Cointelegraph, judge rules Craig Wright is not Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, this is just too fun to cover. Like, this guy literally made up this false biography, like this entirely false path, and just fabricated documents pretending to be Satoshi Nakamoto. And the judge ain't having it. Bitch smacked him on down. It's a grand old time. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. And by the way, just to set the table here just a tiny bit, this isn't the first time in recent, like super recent history that the SEC has gotten smacked down by a judge. Do you remember this one? This is from March 6th. Ripple CLO takes subtle new jab at US SEC. Actually, let me cover it from this article. This was covered heavily, of course, in crypto media, and for good reason. My God, isn't it funny how much just like a year's time can make a difference? Because if you go back just a little over a year ago, Gary Gensler was bragging about how they'd never lost a court decision having anything to do with crypto. And then since then, it's just loss after loss after loss after loss. And it's just fantastic. You'll love to see it, right? But here's the headline from the Crypto Basic on March 7th. Another court lambasts SEC, calls its rules, quote, vague and loosey-goosey, end quote. The United States Securities and Exchange Commission is no stranger to criticisms as it continues to attract condemnation from multiple United States judges. Damn straight. And for good reason. In a recent development, Ripple's chief legal officer called attention to a lawsuit where a judge in the United States Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit slammed the SEC over its buyback disclosure rule. And I don't need to read the rest of the article. I just want to make the point that it's delightful. It's like a little bit tasty, you know what I'm saying? And it's just so fantastic to see back-to-back losses, you know? And so Stuart Alderati wrote the following. This is March 6th. I don't know much about this proxy access case argued in the Fifth Circuit yesterday, but when a judge says the SEC rules are, and this is a quote from the judge, so vague and loosey-goosey that nobody knows whether they'll be at risk, end quote, she may be onto something. You think? Stuart Alderati obviously nailing that. Which brings us to the most recent loss here, because the SEC, let's be clear, they're not operating in good faith. They're a disgusting, despicable organization, the degree to which I never would have guessed, and I wouldn't probably be aware of, if not for the fact that I'm in the world of crypto and an XRP holder. But here's the headline from you today. Ripple's top lawyer, SEC, faces another loss. This is the brand new one here. In a recent setback for the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals placed the SEC's climate reporting regulations temporarily on hold. Womp womp. This decision marks a notable pause in the SEC's efforts to require companies to disclose their greenhouse gas emissions and other climate-related information, Bloomberg reports. Stuart Alderati, Ripple's chief legal officer, pointed to this event as yet another loss for the SEC. The pause comes as a result of a request from Liberty Energy, which argued that the new rules would cause irreparable harm due to compliance costs and constitutional issues. Despite the SEC's rebuttal that Liberty's concerns were speculative, the Fifth Circuit issued a 2-page order without detailed explanation, preventing the regulations from taking effect pending further court decisions. I gotta tell you, I'd love to see data on this, but I would not be surprised if this is the losingest, if I can make up a word, the losingest that the SEC has ever been under a particular SEC chair. I would love to see data on that, would not be surprised if this is the case though. Especially because of the tremendous overreach having to do with crypto. Like, we knew, because we're, living in reality here, we knew that this is a tremendous overreach. And the good news is, in the United States, even though there is no perfect justice system, in the United States, it is true that, by and large, justice is done. It typically is. It's not perfect. Sometimes there's injustice as a result of the court system, but that's not usually the case. Usually it's pretty damn good. And so I was always optimistic the whole time going through the SEC v. Ripple case that justice would be done, and it most certainly has been, broadly speaking anyway. And here we are. We've come out better on the other side, with XRP in a better position literally than any other cryptocurrency in existence, from a legal perspective. And so here's the screen grab that Stuart Alderati shared. Fifth Circuit blocks SEC climate reporting regulations for now. The Fifth Circuit on Friday temporarily blocked the implementation of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission's new emissions reporting requirements, issuing an administrative stay in a challenge brought by oil and gas company Liberty Energy, Inc. And he simply wrote, because this is really all that you need to write, another week, another loss for Gensler's SEC. And I particularly love that after this attack and all the stress and nonsense all of the team at Ripple had to go through, including undoubtedly Stuart Alderati, I'm so glad that since we've gotten that clarity on XRP, we were far enough along, even though I know technically the SEC v. Ripple case is technically still ongoing. The part that matters to XRP holders, that's settled. We're good. Like, we are golden here. I just love seeing Stuart Alderati being in a position where he can just come out, right, and just mock the SEC, because that agency deserves to be mocked. Absolutely. In fact, take a look at this, just to illustrate the absurdity of what they've done here. There's this post from Paul Graywall, that's the chief legal officer over at Coinbase, and he shared this screen grab, and he simply wrote, "Don't want to read our entire 78-page in our Third Circuit suit against the SEC? Just read this to understand how broken the commission's approach has been." And folks, Coinbase ain't lying. They put this together. What is on your screen? It is true. The SEC talks out of both sides of their mouth. Whatever they think would help them in the moment, they will just say that. And it's just amazing to me, because are they actually thinking that the judges in various cases will not be aware of this? Do they think, do you think the judges are just so stupid that they're not going to be aware to detect that the SEC is disingenuous, and that that's putting it lightly. They're outright liars. So look at this. There are 3 issues highlighted in the screen grab. Number 1 is a digital asset a security? And then they provide examples of the SEC's conflicting statements, going back to 2018. So is a digital asset a security? In 2018, the answer was no. And they said a digital asset, quote, all by itself is not a security, end quote. 6 years ago, 2018. But then fast forward a little bit. In 2021, is a digital asset a security? From the SEC, the answer then was yes. A digital asset, quote, embodies and represents the investment contract, end quote. Now, obviously, that comes directly from the Ripple lawsuit pertaining to XRP. They said, yeah, it embodies it. That's the same thing as saying XRP itself is a security. Okay, so fast forward further to this year, 2024. The question again, is a digital asset a security? They go back to no, it's not. A digital asset is just, quote, computer code, end quote. And I remember when that was filed, because that was the filing where the SEC acknowledged they are not going to appeal the decision from Judge Torres that XRP is a security. Like, of course not. Yeah, it said itself, of course it's not a security. It's just computer code. No inherent value even. That's what they said. That's what they said last year. It may have been in, I want to say August, pulling from memory, could be wrong, but it was around then, I'm sure. But literally 5 days later, after arguing no, the asset itself is not a security, 5 days later, I kid you not, is a digital asset a security? Yes, 5 freaking days later. It reads as follows. The digital asset itself, quote, represents the investment contract, end quote. They went back to the embodiment theory 5 days later. What judge is falling for this? I hope the answer is none of them. Hopefully they're not stupid. S-T-O-O-P-I-D, stupid. It's just laughable. And so much is at stake here, and they're actually harming real people's lives. Like, they harmed the lives of so many of you listening. I'm willing to bet the vast majority of you were financially harmed because of them. And look at how absurd it is. You could tell anybody who's not informed on the topic, just show them this. They'll be blown away. This is really how this agency is actually behaving. The next question is, can the SEC regulate digital asset exchanges? In 2021, their stance was no. They can't regulate digital exchanges. Quote, right now, there is not a market regulator for crypto exchanges, end quote. But in 2022, a year later, they changed their tune. The answer was yes, the SEC can regulate digital asset exchanges. Quote, Congress gave us a broad framework to regulate exchanges, end quote. What? Might these things be at odds with one another? Methinks the answer is obviously yes, you asshat pricks. Spawns of Satan, winged creatures. And then the third question, is existing law clear? In 2020, they said no. There is, quote, no certainty, end quote, about whether digital assets are securities. So the SEC, they're claiming, well, the asset itself, we don't know whether or not it's the securities. Are you serious? We don't know what to do with our hands. How do they even get their shirts on in the morning? So they didn't know. But in 2023, the answer was yes. Existing law is clear. Quote, we have a clear regulatory framework built up over 90 years. End quote. Oh, okay, do you? No, you don't. It's just absurd. Now, the only thing more absurd specifically than that last little bit would be this. Maybe this is this more absurd, actually? Maybe I should take that back. I mean, the SEC v. Ripple lawsuit, pretty freaking absurd. The claim that XRP itself is a security, certainly more damaging to real-world people than what happened with the Craig Wright case here. But which is more absurd? I don't know, I'm going to take some time to think about that, but maybe it is the Craig Wright thing then again, because even though that obviously isn't as consequential, and it obviously didn't harm as many real-world people, as in terms of just pure absurdity, I guess so. I mean, he's like this guy is pretending to be Satoshi Nakamoto and fabricated documents, fabricated an entire biography, an entire past. That might be more absurd, actually. Okay. I'm thinking that's probably more absurd, even though it's not as consequential or important as the SEC v. Ripple case. And just in terms of pure absurdity, okay, probably yes. If I'm wrong, I'm willing to be persuaded, though. This is a stream of consciousness here, so I could take that back. Tell me what you think in the comments section. But anyway, the headline here, Judge rules Craig Wright is not Satoshi Nakamoto. Report. And this is from 3 days ago, March 14th, and I'm glad I have a chance to talk about this. So, piece reads as follows. Craig Wright is not Satoshi Nakamoto. Spoiler alert. The pseudonymous creator of the Bitcoin network, according to Judge James Mellor's ruling in the United Kingdom on March 14th, reported BitMEX Research. Closing arguments began in London on March 12th in the lawsuit brought by the Crypto Open Patent Alliance, or COPA for short, a lawsuit against Wright, an Australian computer scientist who claimed to be Nakamoto since 2016. COPA was seeking injunctive relief to prevent Wright from further claiming to be Nakamoto. Wright has been accused of massive document forgery for supporting his claim of being the pseudonymous Bitcoin founder. According to COPA's closing submission, quote, and I love this because it's so ridiculous, Dr. Wright has been shown to have lied on an extraordinary scale. He has invented an entire biographical history, producing one tranche after another of forged documents to support it, end quote. The trial began on February 5th. Wright had offered to settle the case out of court on January 24th, but COPA declined. Yeah, well, I think that COPA was pretty well aware that they had a slam dunk here. That has to be how they felt, or else you'd settle. And so, anyway, piece continues. COPA was founded in 2020 to encourage the adoption and advancement of cryptocurrency technologies and to remove patents as a barrier to growth and innovation. Its 33 members include Coinbase, Block, Meta, MicroStrategy, Kraken, Paradigm, Uniswap, and WorldCoin. In 2023, the Wright sued 13 Bitcoin core developers. I don't know why they wrote the Wright, probably because it's crypto media and they're a bunch of C students. So anyway, Wright sued 13 Bitcoin core developers and a group of companies, including Blockstream, Coinbase, and Block, for copyright violations relating to the Bitcoin white paper, its file format, and database rights to the Bitcoin blockchain. Now, the audacity of this is hilarious to me. This is completely absurd. A real human is like, man, our species, dude, like, I know most people are like this, like species on the whole, pretty good. I'm a big fan. But then you get to the fringes and there are just like complete pieces of human debris like this. And they're doing ridiculous, absurd stuff and they actually think they're going to get away with this? Craig Wright, what a joke. And I am proud to state that I have been blocked on social media platform X by Fake Toshi, aka Craig Wright. It's an absolute honor to be blocked by this freaking imbecile. So anyway, in response to the lawsuit, the Bitcoin Legal Defense Fund said, quote, for years, prominent contributors to the Bitcoin community have been the subject of abusive lawsuits. These lawsuits are frivolous but effective. Many developers have decided it's not worth the time, stress, money, and legal risk to continue working on Bitcoin, end quote. Wright filed United States copyright registration for the Bitcoin white paper and the code within it in 2019. The Bitcoin white paper is now subject to an MIT open source license, allowing anyone to reuse and modify the code for any purpose. A court injunction would prevent Wright from further copyright claims on it. And so, look, I don't think for a moment that the real Satoshi Nakamoto, he, her, are a group of people, maybe it's a group of people, that's plausible too. Whoever Satoshi Nakamoto is, pretty sure that they don't give a damn what the hell is done. Like, it was intentionally made open source. The real Satoshi Nakamoto would not then come along years later and be like, yeah, but you need my permission to do stuff with it. No, absolutely not. This is completely absurd. Who is falling for this? The answer is no one. Almost no one, anybody. There actually are some people that believe Craig Wright, even to this day. I know that sounds implausible. Yeah, but it's true. Is what it is, folks. So you guys tell me what's more absurd, this, and I'm not asking which is worse. Obviously, the SEC v. Ripple case unquestionably worse than this. But which is just purely more absurd? What happened regarding XRP with the SEC or the Craig Wright nonsense? Tell me in the comment section below. I do want to hear from you. This is a fun one. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.